Alright, we're going to do a setup of Azure Virtual Desktop specifically for use with voice pass-through from the endpoint through to the virtual environment. So we're going to come to portal.azure.com. The first thing that we need to do is create a resource group. So I can just type resource groups up here into the search, and let's create a new one. I'm just going to call that MF resource group for Mindfire resource group. You can add tags if you want, but I'm just going to review and create. Pass the validation, we should be good to go there. So you can see our resource group is there now. The next thing we need to do is create a virtual network. We're going to select our resource group we just created, and fire virtual network. Next, it's going to let us choose a block by IP addresses, so I'm just going to use the default settings. Security, we'll just leave the defaults for now. We're not going to tag it, we're just going to review and create again. Okay, that looks like it's done. The next thing we need to do is create a network interface. Select our resource group again. We'll choose all the defaults again. Going to skip the tags, review and create. Okay, perfect. Now we need a workspace. Create a workspace, select our same resource group. We're not going to register any application groups at this time. We will review and create. Okay, now we should be at the point where we can start creating our virtual desktop. I can just walk you through the setup. The first thing that needs to be done is set up a pool. Select our same resource group. We're going to choose a pooled resource group, and then we'll just say 4 users per session for now. Yes, we want to add a virtual machine at this time. Let's just call that Mindfire session host. Oh, it's not going to let us have more than 11 characters on that one, so we'll just do Mindfire session. We're not going to do an availability zone right now because this is just a sandbox environment, but you can obviously do that in a production environment and probably want to. We will just choose a Windows 11 multi-session with the Microsoft 365 apps on there. We're just going to do a single VM right now. We'll use the default 2 CPUs, 8 gigs memory for now. No reason to do anything different for just this demonstration. This is why we had to create our virtual network, because we need to select it here. So there we go. We want to make sure that we allow RDP just in case we need to get there. We want to be on Azure Active Directory in this instance. Now we need to create an admin user. For these purposes, I'll just keep it real simple for admin. Not going to worry about any templates. This is why we created our workspace, so that we can register with the workspace. And there we go. We don't need any tags. We can just review and create again. And that is done. Kind of. The setup is done. The deployment is still obviously happening, as you can see there, but what we can do now is let's go into our resource group. And we can set some permissions in here. Alright, so we can take a look and see what role assignments are there now. Nothing really. So we need to add a couple of roles here. I'm going to add myself as an owner. Review and assign. And let's add one more. I'm going to add virtual machine administrator login. The other one that you can do is if you're not wanting them to be users, you can, or administrators, you just can add the desktop virtualization users as well. So otherwise they won't be able to log in. Just add myself. Because I want to be an admin on that machine. Review and assign. And that should be there. Okay, it's still creating the actual VM, but what we can do in the meantime is we can go to our pool that we created, and we can start to set up the remote desktop settings. So Azure Active Directory authentication, I do want to use that to log in. Nothing I'm going to do here for now. Device redirection, this is where this part is important because we need to make sure that we enable the audio capture from the local device. I'm also going to do some video encoding. I'm going to do a camera redirection in case we're doing any sort of video calls. I like having my hotkeys transfer, but only when the remote computer's in focus. And then display settings, you can enable multiple displays, but for now I'm not gonna do that. And then if you want to see what is actually passed through in the remote desktop session, then these are the properties that are passed through. So let's go ahead and save that. And now as soon as this deploys, we should be able to test out our VMs, but this takes just a little bit to deploy that. As you can see, we've got an application group, an application. I do believe we also need to, while I'm here, I think we need to add some users to the workspace as well. Let's double check. Here's the one we just created. Might actually be under application groups. We'll double check. That all looks good. So let's look at the application group. You can see we don't have any assignments for this application group, so we need to make sure that we get a user in there so that they can actually use it. Again, I'm going to add myself. Perfect. Our VM is still deploying. So far you can see it's taken 6 minutes. So while that's doing that, we should be able to pull up our remote desktop app. We're going to do a refresh on this. And hopefully we'll be able to see what we just created. So there's our workspace we just created. Oh no, right here. This is the workspace we just created, the Mindfire workspace. And it's got our session desktop. And as soon as that VM is created, we should be able to connect to that. Okay, that finally finished up. So that took about 15 minutes for that to create that VM. So take a look at it. So you can see, let's find our session host. There's our session right there. That's our session host. Let's try and connect and see what happens. So it's finding it. It's now trying to authenticate against my Azure Active Directory account. I enter in my password. So as you can see, we're now connected. Wait for Windows to load up. Let's check our audio devices. You can see we've got remote audio input, which is good. You can see my microphone is working. It's hearing me from my local desktop. That's passing through straight to the virtual environment. So now soft phone settings, whatever you need to be running, should work without any issue.